Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe, here to make sense out of the senseless. Right here on shrmedia.com. Conservative media done right. This is the show where the spin dies screaming and the facts light the fuse. We do not tiptoe around the truth, and we are not going to pretend that coordinated political sabotage is just partisan disagreement. Nope. What you are watching is power being seized without accountability. And tonight, we tear that system apart. I am your host, Jersey Joe, and tonight we'll walk straight into the machinery of the left. Use it when it can't win honestly. I got a couple of guests with me tonight. Everybody should know these. We got the bulbous one, the great BZ.
Hi, kids.
And then, of course, we have the boss, Sackhead Sean.
How are you?
Oh, how's everybody doing tonight?
Superior in all respects.
No complaints. I mean, other than the fact that the left is absolutely batshit crazy, but that's been not a new complaint. So
exactly.
Like I said in chat, you tiptoe around the truth, but will you be revealing that I've actually seen your ballerina shoes?
Shh. Don't let them know.
I know. Sad.
I want to thank everybody that's in the chat room already. We got the Phantom, O2 AMT. Of course, BZ's in there. Mission Ready Men. Big E's there. So, BZ, you seem to had something that you wanted to break at the beginning of the show.
Oh, dude, you already heard about it. I thought I was going to let you break it. I mean, it's amazing. I just mentioned it in the chat room, but whose show is it? So who should be the revelator?
You can. I'm giving you that honor.
Well, thank you kindly. This just came out about a half hour ago, maybe 45 minutes ago or so. I'm looking at Yahoo. No. It's to Yahoo from a more direct source called the Minnesota Reformer. And folks, I hope you're sitting down for this, because this could be just a small thimbleful of cool. But the headline, Waltz and Frey to receive subpoenas in criminal matter related to ICE. Now, we were discussing this before the show, and some folks were saying, hey, is it state? Is it legislative? No, the cool thing is, as Joe pointed out, is this is the DOJ. This is the U.S. DOJ, who have shipped subpoenas over to Governor Tampon Tim and Mayor Jacob. I haven't seen a muzzy that I didn't love to fillet as part of a criminal investigation as whether they've impeded federal immigration enforcement. Now, hands for those of you who think this will go somewhere.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I can see it going both ways. I think right now Trump's fed up with it, and he's pressuring Bondi, get off your ass and do something.
I used to know all the district courts, but I don't know which one that is in Minnesota.
I don't know if it's necessarily an outright pressure of get off your ass and do something. As much as I feel like this just has to happen. Like, this is a message beyond him.
Yes.
Beyond these two, I should say, where this is like, hey, you guys can't just go out and be total assholes and say that you're going to, I don't know, go to war with the American government to protect a whole bunch of illegals. We still do actually have laws against that, boys.
Exactly. And they've been running their mouth. The left as a whole has been too free with their mouths of late. And then they've gotten a little too cocky about it, feeling that they're untouchable. Yeah. We need to smack a couple of them down and it'll put them all back in place. Like they're doing right now in Minnesota. They are arresting a lot of these. I don't want to call them. All right, for those that are in the chat, if you use vulgar language, that is the line, and you will get tossed. All right, thanks. Listen, all three of us love free speech. We have no problem with opposing opinions, but you're not going to come in here and just spew filth. All right. Yes, we do, Chris. You're not just going to come in here and act like that. Now, where was I? Now I
Where
lost.
were you? Wait, in chat, you guys have some magic fingers and shit. In terms of, did I just not see that dudette, probably a dudette, because low T. Did I just not see that stuff disappear?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
Focus.
Put them in timeout. Look, if you have something productive to add, we've always said this about add it. Even if you don't like ICE, you can just say, well, I disagree with ICE existence. Okay. I mean, at least you're being reasonable. You're just going to come in here and just start like acting like you're going to drop bombs and make it about you. Then no, that's not the conversation we have.
Exactly.
No.
So I put him in a 5-minute timeout, and we'll see if that helps his behavior.
Put him in the corner.
Put him in the corner.
Now I remember where I was going. In Minnesota, if you notice, for a lack of, for these rioters and the ones that are obstructing ICE, they're now getting arrested left, right, and center. They're not putting up with it anymore. They're getting hit with obstruction. I don't understand it. If I did have to stuff, could you imagine? Because we're going to talk about it sometime during the show. Could you imagine if we as conservatives have done half the shit that these liberals have done, exposing when raids are coming up, when ICE is going to be in town? Could you imagine if we exposed when January 6th raids were going to happen? What would happen to us under the regime?
A fraction, a 16th.
And you bring up a good point. You brought up January 6th. And look, say what you want. And we've all had our piece about January 6th. But the reality of the situation is January 6th was at least focused on what was wrong in this country. It was actually wrong with our constitution being eroded, our rights being taken away, yada, yada, yada. It wasn't to allow illegal immigration to run rampant, do nothing about illegal immigration that was caused by the Biden administration, this influx, do absolutely nothing about it. All the while, there are billions in fraud that's being found from those groups who are here illegally. So there's a big difference. I said this on my show the other night. There's a huge difference between I don't like this, so I'm going to vote different, or I'm going to go ahead and talk to my legislators. Okay, that's your right. You have every option to do that. And I am going to be an insurgent and stand against the constitutionally approved agency that is constitutionally approved law that they're enforcing to undo a massive, we still don't talk enough about what 10, 15, 20, whatever the number is, millions, that influx does to our infrastructure in our country, our finances in our country, our schools, our public safety, our health, all of that stuff. They just don't want to talk about that. So then they hide behind this bullshit.
Yeah, it's getting tiresome with it.
Same shit.
And a lot of the people that are bitching on the left are the same ones that put a lot of these rules and laws in place. So if you got a problem with the law, change the law. Don't attack ICE. They're only enforcing the laws that Congress passed.
And nobody wants to talk about that. That's the issue. It's just mind-boggling. They'll talk about, you have the illegals, they get a way to do this, and they have to be able to do that. And these poor, what did Jayapal call them? Their constituents. Well, in a government context, your constituents are citizens that have the right to vote, not just random people who show up here. And we all know why they're mad. Joe, you wrote an article about this earlier today. Go ahead. I won't Bigfoot you.
No. Which article?
The one about them losing a congressional seat.
Oh, yeah. In Minnesota, it looks like, had a blonde moment there. Minnesota, with the amount of illegals that are getting deported out of there, they might lose a congressional seat or two because the numbers are going to drop. California's having the same thing between everybody moving the hell out of there. And now they got another mass exodus with all the billionaires and millionaires moving out. The deported going out, they could lose several seats.
And what did we say during the influx of illegal immigration under the Biden administration? This is being done to rewrite congressional districts and
Yes.
someday make future voters out of it. I said this, you said, everybody on their own show said this.
And not even just, and I'll let you jump in, BZ. It's not even just the voter portion of it. It has increased the number of congressmen and women in the House.
Yeah.
So it allows more Democrats to get in, which allows more votes to be cast.
But it's not legitimate because we all know that when they do the polls and they do the census, that they don't count just citizens. They count just anybody in the household.
Yep. You're about to say something, BZ, sir?
It's all very intentional, completely intentional. Everybody realizes it. First, flood the borders. Mayorkas continued to lie to everybody. Oh, the border is secure. Bull fucking shit. It never was. As a matter of fact, everyone was encouraged. And they knew and reported to themselves in Central and Southern America that, hey, you're encouraged to come up. And by the way, they'll pay you to come up. And they'll give you little mappies to come up. And then you flood the country to create replacement theory, which becomes replacement reality. And then you get that number of greater amounts of voters who are thusly dependent on that side of the government. And on top of that, you get more seats in Congress because that's how that works. As we already saw in California, I'm sorry, Califailure, always spell it with a K, which lost, Sean, perhaps you can weigh in on this, at least one, perhaps two seats on that.
Yeah, and it's 2 right now. That was the last time I checked. It was 2, which is why Prop 50 was such a big deal for them, because they knew this was coming and they had to redistrict. Yeah, and here's the problem, and you guys know this. The country is not as blue as they would have you think.
No.
It's just not. You have what happens in a state like California, only half the people vote, because the other half are conservatives, and they know their vote kind of doesn't count in some ways, or they think so they just don't show up. But I'll tell you right now, if we repeal the 17th and put how our senators are supposed to be appointed by a state legislature, not direct election, that's what the House is for. If we repeal the 17th, they would never have an ounce of power in the Senate again. And they know that, because most of it would be 70-30 constantly.
I love it. I love it when Earl steals my stuff. Only in the densely populated urban rat cages. Wait, Earl, thank you. And this is for you, mister. The other thing that I'd like to point out is that it would appear that all three of us, along with Earl, we, like the virtuous B-17 bomber pilots that we are, we're over the target because we're getting flack in chat. I just removed another one. If you're going to squatrant into our chat room, you're going to be eliminated tatio, like John Wick, like excommunicado.
Yeah, it's, and it's one of those things that...
So we're over the target.
Maybe it is the format. I don't know.
Maybe it is the format.
Oh.
But you have to realize all of this comes down, and look, I don't want to beat the dead horse. It comes down to power and fundraising. And now that they're cornered in the fundraising department with USAID not flooding money back into the Democrat pockets via Think Blue and other places, if what Burchett said about Venezuela is true, that's another source of income that's being lost by the Democrats. And then, as we all saw with the Ellison phone call, when he said to all the people who are being investigated for fraud, he said, don't worry, I'll make sure these fraud investigations don't go through. And the next day he was flooded with funding donations that were made for Ellison. So it tells you exactly where they are.
Well, the other thing I should care to point out is, as Sean and I pointed out earlier today on the Weekend Update show, is that all of this would not have been revealed had Hillary Clinton won. And there's so much for lack of a better word, there's so much traitorous action going on throughout the United States. And this is where I have to interject. Okay, I believe we're pointing our fingers at the Democrats, of course, but I think a good deal of the finger pointing has to also occur towards the Republicans in the GOP, who, if there's failure on the GOP side, it's that they fail to coalesce. And there have been 2 times, now 3 times that I'm aware of in recent history, wherein we have had the triumvirate. The GOP and conservatives have had the Oval Office, the House, and the Senate, and we didn't do shit because we were cowardly and spineless. And there are way too many rhinos extant right now, this day, who will not hold up for America. There are so many things, like the bill that was just passed. Republicans, how many? 16, 17 of them decided that they were going to go through and pass that. And that was just to be, to paraphrase, one of them was just to, go along. I want to be copacetic. Who wants to push back? We have to let some things go through. Fuck that. I'm done.
You can't get along to get along and then just constantly give the house away. I
No.
mean, that's what it comes down to. You have to push back. I mean, look, if you want to do feel good bills where you rename a park and stuff like that, and you want to do that unified, and you want to do that in a bipartisan manner, okay, fantastic. Do it. Go for it. Nobody cares. But when you're talking about, by the way, the leading reason that people voted last time for Trump was immigration, and you're stepping in front of that, I don't care if you're in a purple district or not, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Well, and you predicated your entire voting upon the individual OMB, that particular issue resonated with you, and then for whatever reason you decide that you're going to go against that, which was your raison d'être for even existing at that time and making that vote. So where are you and what are you?
Mm-hmm. And this is the problem we have right now. And look, that sort of mealy mouth, weak approach is exactly why we have what's going on in Minnesota right now.
And that's going to bring me to one of the topics I was going to bring up. The Democrats created a standard of justice that was never meant to apply universally. It was designed to be used once against one target and then quietly shelved. They impeached Donald Trump over an alleged insurrection. The core arguments was not a direct command. It was not an order. It was timing. They claimed that he waited too long to tell people to go home. That delay, they argued, amounted to incitement. That was the standard they set. That was justification they relied on. That was the line they drew without hesitation. Now, fast forward to now, we are week 2 of violent protests in Minnesota. Federal officers are being assaulted. Property is being damaged. Streets are being shut down. Disorder is continuing day after day. How can they justify that?
The other thing I want to point out is that you have multiple layers of law enforcement that's going on in Minnesota right now, and the only layer that's being leveraged against is ICE, or the federal agents, that side of law enforcement. In terms of traffic, the Minnesota State Police is conspicuously absent. MPD is conspicuously absent because I'm suggesting that they have intentionally been told to stay away. So, turnabout becomes eventually fair play. And if there's one thing that we used to have, but we have now lost, is solidarity amongst law enforcement. When you lose that, then you lose whatever modicum of civilization you think that you have in a given city or a given state. And the sanctuary policies, sanctuary city policies and state policies have done their very level best to destroy that. So sadly, whereupon one time law enforcement could be relied upon, law enforcement and the probity of law enforcement is now just regionalized. And you have to realize now where you live, because At one point, you could count on their truthfulness, their response, etc. Now, those days are gone. That's extremely sad.
It's very sad. It's, we have, and I brought this up in the article I wrote on shrmedia.com. We've seen all this before. This isn't a new approach that they're taking. They find their straw man, somebody who's not, they can't point at somebody individually because then they're targeting. So they just pick a strong man group, straw man rather, group, and say, look, these nameless, faceless people, just like cops, just like they did with BLM and everything else, are horrible to you, and they're evil, and they shouldn't exist, and we have to deplatform them, we have to defund them, we have to do this, we have to do that. And all they're doing is shaking their ass on stage on that stripper pole like the good little whores that they are, and convincing all the ugly liberals that they love them, so those ugly liberals throw money at them. And then they get off stage, they get into their boyfriend's Mercedes, and they go jet off for the weekend to Vegas or Miami. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing.
It is for money, because what is the primary thing that we've discovered recently? The inculcation and the embedding of greed and scum. It's like it's a reference to the fucking Moss Eisley spaceport, where it's the central locus of greed, villainy, and scum. All four, however, the triumvirate of things that people aspire to: power, control, and money. And if you can somehow turn off that spigot of cash, then that's how you freeze all of these ridiculously stupid things going on. But now it seems as though every leftist urban rat cage is in fact the Moss Eisley spaceport. But the only way to have any kind of effect is to, and I mentioned this on the show the other night, I'm not necessarily advocating, but I'm not necessarily not advocating. In order to turn off the taps, the only way that will be efficacious is to stop paying taxes. And to stop paying taxes is the only, that I believe, nonviolent way that you can turn this around. So whereas, you have action, as I mentioned earlier to Sean, there's action and reaction. Historically, conservatives have been forced to be on the reactive end of this. The action,
they chose to
violence, is on the part of leftists right now. And so the primary question has to be something similar to, okay, I get that. We've been incredibly patient, we conservatives, when we've been watching every bit of infrastructure, political and otherwise, brought down upon our heads. But at what point do we say something similar to, Isoroku Yamamoto, dude, you may be right. You absolutely may be right. I caution prudence. I always have. I always will. But there comes a tipping point, and I don't know. Perhaps that's the point at which I say to you, gentlemen, okay, take that and run with it wherever you will.
Well, and look, I think it does go back to the Republicans being weak. I agree with you that the reactionary aspect makes us politically, to the uneducated, look like the assholes, right? Because you're watching this happen for a long period of time. However horrible the thing is, in this case, it was immigration. We're sitting there watching, and there were people that were speaking, but not enough. And now that it's time to do something, I mean, it's the best contrasting view of the entire country. The liberals let all this happen. They do everything to erode it. They just spend all of this money. They allow lawlessness. They encourage lawlessness, yada, yada, yada. And then when the conservatives say, hey, this can't happen anymore because we're losing the fabric of our fucking nation, then all of a sudden they're the assholes. They're the bad. You don't like people, and you're taking healthcare away, and they're just dreamers, and blah, 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 blah. And then we get to where we are. So I think that taking a proactive approach to all of this needs to happen.
Well, and as obviously the rest of you have said, We have put this shit on ignore mode for decades.
Yep.
Hoping beyond hope with crossed phalanges that somehow, in some fashion, this will just disappear and go away of its own accord. And that ignorance, that setting, that switch having been flipped, is how we got to where we are now.
I forgot who told me this, and I remember it as being a very young man. Hope's not a battle strategy.
No, it isn't not. And as politicians used to say, I heard this as a quote in the 60s. Oh my God. What did I say that for? That was stupid.
1860s.
Yeah, right. Thank you. No, 1760s.
That's when he was, an older gentleman in the 1860s.
1860s, he was a mature man.
Right. Thank you.
He was young. He might be a vampire. We don't know yet.
I had my incisors and canines filed down years ago, guys. Okay.
The roundest.
But the political axiom then, which BZ then adopted, was you fight words with words and actions with actions. So if you can keep everything in the realm of verbosity, then that's fine. But when things cross that realm, that road into action, and now in terms of violence, then how do you, as I am wont to say, how do you push that cream back in the bottle and in the tube? And how do you push that genie back in the bottle? Is it possible to go back? I'm not sure.
How do you push the shit back in the toilet bowl? Well, I think one of the ways that you do it is you start finding the money and you dry it up. I think that's how step one is. If you can find the money and you dry it up, and look, as we talked about earlier, just the donations going away and just the amount of money flooding into their pockets is going to hurt them. But now you need to find out who's throwing money out to these protesters. We all know they're paid, but you got to find that source, because right now, look, this is an insurgency. I don't care what anyone says. This is an insurgency against the nation, right? It's against our laws. The Insurrection Act absolutely applies here. I understand that there may be other functions going on, but if you dry up that money, and yeah, O2AMT in the chat nailed it. Yeah. Soros and others.
Soros, sure. Because he's manipulating, I believe he's manipulating more money than Dad is right now.
Well, and not every single person there is probably a paid protester, but you get enough of them to direct them, to organize them. Look, I'll say it to you. I'll say it right now. And I've never understood how people miss this. When there's an incident and within an hour, you have 500 people who have signs regarding the incident. They have flags regarding the incident. They're organized. There are people there directing them where to go. They're handing out goggles and all this other stuff. That just doesn't fucking happen out of the blue. Think about your 5 closest people in your life. Can you get them in the car in a half an hour to go somewhere without all this bullshit? It's like herding cats. But no, all of a sudden there's a shooting in East Bumfuck, Minnesota. I know this one was in Minneapolis, but we've seen this in other places where it happens outside the town center or the city center, and all of a sudden you get hundreds of people showing up.
You get 2 busloads of people pulling up.
That is an occupying force at that point, because they're not there to lawfully protest. They're hiding behind the First Amendment.
All right, I'm going to give you a question real quick.
Cause problems.
I'm going to give you a question, and then we're going to go to break, and we'll answer it after we come back. People arrested during these quote-unquote protests, and it is proven that they were paid to protest. Should they be charged for treason? Because that's not protesting at that point.
Well, maybe not treason, because you have to prove that they were trying to undo the America. You have to prove that there was an intent to unseat the power in America.
Right. We'll come back right after the break. Oh, you fucker. I wanted you to let it.
That was intentional.
Son of a
to sit, to ruminate. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors. the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armor's gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional. But it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Reaver of Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. Don't forget we got our great friend BZ and the boss, Stackhead Sean. All right.
You cock tease.
Is that like Bruce Springsteen? Does he play guitar?
Only rounder.
Did you just call him a round heels?
No, just round.
Oh, jeez.
All right. I had leveled a question. All right. Maybe not.
Yeah,
treason.
no, let's back up to the question.
Yeah, right. But I'm just saying, maybe not treason, but
you were just the stripper right there. You were dangling it in front of me, waiting for me to throw dollars on stage. And then before I could even throw a dollar, you got up and walked into the back room. What the fuck was that? Ask me about treason.
I told you from the start I was going to ask a question, then we were going to go to break. You weren't listening.
Oh, I never listened.
And the other thing is, you cannot trust Jersey Joe to not Vaseline that pole.
Yeah. Hey, a lot of people don't know this, but those tripper poles actually spin on its spin itself. It's not the girls that are spinning on it. The pole itself actually spins. Just so you know.
I thought it was Earth.
I'll explain how I know that when we get off the air.
I've heard that about people in Poland.
No, I've never seen that one.
Wait, what one?
The pole spinning it.
Oh no, it does. The brass pole actually spins.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, it does.
How do he know that?
I'll tell you off the air, but I'm telling
Yeah,
you, if you've
I've
ever dated
worked a couple
a
strip clubs.
stripper, you'd know. Okay.
Sean in a Speedo. I told you
Oh,
I create brain worms.
I don't even want to picture that.
How do you unsee
I
that?
shower with
real
I
lights
put
on.
it in there, folks. You can't unsee that in your brainulus. Go ahead, try.
I shower with the lights off, BZ. I don't want to see it. So we get into the question of treason.
that was treasonous.
That was treasonous.
Damn Skippy, mister.
Oh, great. Now the chat room is all vomiting. Good job.
Yeah.
BZ saying that, or excuse me, Big E saying this is taking a turn.
This isn't even my fault.
When does the SHR media show take a turn? Every time.
Every fucking time.
Okay, so what was your question? Because
Is it treason?
If you're getting paid to protest and obstruct,
I would argue it's conspiracy.
okay.
To obstruct. I would argue that there is a crime to be made there. If your intent is to go out and to disrupt lawful law enforcement operations, and you're doing it with 2 or more people, that qualifies as a conspiracy to commit a crime. So now, if they can prove that your goal is to completely actually undo and commit and enact a war against the country, that's different. And I don't think they have the balls to try to enact a war because, I mean, let's face it. I saw a woman at a protest last night wearing a fucking broiler pan on a string around her chest to keep the paintballs off her. These are not war hardy people.
No.
But
Who's the one that's screaming civil war the most though right now?
They're the ones who are trying to absolutely usurp our rights, and they're hiding behind the First Amendment. And look, I'm a huge fan of the First Amendment because we wouldn't be here. I have no problem if they go out and legitimately protest at the federal building. Protest.
Yeah.
Exactly what a protest is
walk
supposed
the
to be.
streets, don't block driveways.
Have your signs, say what you want. You can be out there 24/7, 365. Look, as Matt pointed out earlier, if you want to take your drugs and stand out there in the Minnesota cold for 14 hours to protest, look, have at it, please.
Knock yourself out.
But when you are, and you have websites and groups that are teaching them how to obstruct law enforcement, how to essentially lynch somebody out of an arrest, how to use your vehicle as a weapon and to block, yes, you are absolutely committing felonies, and you need to go to jail. And look, I do wonder if the second shooting that happened where they lynched the guy and he went into the house and the cop got the shot off and hit him in the leg, I do wonder if that isn't going to force some people to go, well, maybe it is chilly out here. Like maybe we stay in large groups in the town center. Cause yeah, I don't know because all 3 of them are going. I mean, all 3 of them are illegal as they found out, or at least 2 of them are illegal, but they're going. And the trade-off to that is they're going to have a huge, and I know they're going to scream conspiracy. Neither cop is going to be charged.
DOJ already said they're not going to charge
Yep,
the
that's
one
true.
from Minneapolis.
Yeah,
Yep, that already
both of them were
occurred.
Minneapolis.
See, but you got Honda Pilot driver.
No, the other one
Because-
I thought was Portland.
Oh, Portland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Well, now there's 3 because there's the one the other night where they were lynched. There's the 2 Tren de Aragua members up in Portland,
That was Portland.
and then there was the good incident.
Yep. But the Honda Pilot driver incident occurred because of failure of imagination. And that is to say, they were, I can think of no other word than taught that there will be no consequences for any of these things. And they believed their own bullshit. They read their own press and thought that we can continue to do this with 0 results.
They think that if ICE activates their emergency equipment, that they do not have to yield. They think that if ICE gives them a law, their only job is to go find illegals and send them out of the country. Well, they're still federal agents. They still have the same rights and authority as any other federal agent. Their focus might be deportation and removals of illegals, but they're still sworn federal agents. And if you're committing a crime in their presence, they have the right to stop you.
Yeah.
Let
And
me throw something out.
There's a ton of federal crime that is very, very people don't realize that because of all the things that the federal law enforcement polices throughout this country, there are lines for disturbing the peace and all this other stuff that are federal laws that they can arrest you for.
Yeah,
Well,
but what would happen? What would happen if, let's take it back, with what was going on, not what's going on now, prior to good shooting, what most would happen if they pulled her out of the car? She'd probably got lectured, moved out of the way, and sent home.
They probably would have made an example out of her, but not to arrest her and stuff like that. They would have chastised her in front of the group. They probably would have tossed the car. Who knows, right?
But now people are getting arrested for it, but they weren't doing it up till then.
They don't want to get slowed down with that bullshit because that's not their mission focus. And look, hats off. I heard it was for 20 minutes. I heard it was longer. A group of these protesters were following around ICE today in Minneapolis, and the ICE caravan, there was 7 or 8 of the vehicles, because they ride in packs as they should, decided to hit a roundabout, Rotary, where I come from, and just keep going in circles. And they went for like 20 minutes in circles in this roundabout, just driving in circles.
So that reminds me of Iran and Iraq, because if you wanted to transport high priority principles anywhere in a war zone, then you did that in a convoy, just like you transport, say, the governor or the president, with cars bumper to bumper to each other at 60 to 70 miles an hour to make sure that you're not interrupted. What's occurring now reminds me of Afghanistan and Iraq, and it's here. The other thing I want to throw out to you guys, and I don't know how this would be enacted or supported. You can remember when Trump went back and said that he would declare, and did in fact declare, any number of cartels and organizations terrorist organizations, now to include Antifa. One of the major reasons of doing that is to be able to go into your fiscals and to go into do deep forensic dives into whatever financials that you have as well. So there is no true organization that you can point a single finger at. There is an Antifa, but you can't say, for example, that all of these people belong to a singular hydra that when you hit it, it splits off into a whole bunch of pieces. But I'm wondering if in somewhere in the future you can think of, either on the ground in the streets or on upper government levels, whether you consider RICO. RICO is a wonderful tool when you use it, and it's not just for organized crime and cartels. If it falls under the definition of RICO, then you can go after them for that. So I'm wondering, or I'm curious, if there are ways in which that pry bar can be used against what we're seeing on the streets and in the government today. I think I'd probably want to start that in government first. And I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe that's what's behind the DOJ subpoena of Fry and Waltz.
That's a very, very, very good point I didn't think about. I did not think about that whatsoever.
RICO's a tool. It's a great tool, but it is not self-limiting.
I do have
just throwing it out there to see what happens.
Yeah, if you can prove, and we're getting into the weeds a little bit, and people probably get bored with this, but if you can prove that this money is in an organized effort to disrupt law enforcement activities to the amount that it breaches a federal law, and it's going continuously and they're working together, then yeah, that is a RICO.
Okay. And never forget, what is the ultimate goal of a RICO? To go up the food chain as far as you possibly can until you sever the head of the Hydra.
Mm-hmm. And look, I saw it mentioned in the chat room earlier, and we brought it up. They brought up Soros, and I know we brought that up. Soros isn't the only one, but Soros is a big one.
He's a major contributor.
you know, I equated them to the moped, right? They're a lot of fun to ride until your friends find out, and that's who Soros is. That's why you don't see a lot of Democrats. They every once in a while they do the picture that they have to do, right? The obligatory look. I'm Alex Soros, and I'm with Alex Soros, and blah 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 blah. And it's that look who this person really is. But at the end of the day, they don't mention Soros a lot. They don't mention those groups a lot because they don't want the attention on them. Look at Act Blue. Look at how much we know about Act Blue, but think about how much we don't know about Act Blue. You know, we had all those investigations into all of that Act Blue money and how it was being distributed and how it was being received and yada, yada, yada.
And how it was diverted.
Yes.
How many times have you gone into, or we've discovered that if you go into a Democrats campaign, a good portion of that goes either into Act Blue or it's the reverse. It goes from Act Blue into a campaign. AOC had a very misleading donation point. I think Ilhan Omar had another very misleading donation point. And it didn't go into where you thought it was going. It went into specifically a leftist, multiple leftist organization.
But it also takes time for the DOJ, because I got in a discussion with somebody. I actually looked it up. For an investigation into something of that caliber could take several years for them to really get a case.
Well, you have to follow that money backwards.
Yeah, it's
so you have to.
I don't think that case is done.
Then you have to follow it back to Act Blue, let's say. Then you have to look at Act Blue and see where that money came out of, and then you see where that money came out of until you get to a source. It's chasing ghosts in a lot of ways. And look, how much of that USAID money was laundered all over different countries before it came back into America. If we found out that there was $7 million put on a plane to Somalia out of the Minnesota airport, and that's just cash. I mean, that's what people don't understand, like the depth of this. They put $7 million on a plane in cash to Somalia. Where do you think that money went? A lot of it went to terrorism over there. Sure, absolutely, I have no doubt about it. But how much of that got filtered back this way because they have to keep certain people in power?
Well, the other thing we have to admit is that the temper of the times have changed just in the past year, maybe year and a half, maybe even 2 years. If you were to think to have reported that, your life would have been turned to toast. Mm-hmm. You would have been flamed, roasted, canceled. There would have been huge amounts of pressure on you. So societally, things have changed with regard to that. And I'm going to make a statement now, and I know that once I finish this statement, Sean is going to pick it up and run like a badass football. And that statement is this. I used to be a detective and investigated a whole bunch of crap. One of the things when I was in theft that I was tasked with for a time until I despised every bit of it was when you get, and on a federal and a state level, is when you get a financial crimes, fraud, or theft case. It is so terribly. Wait, Sean, look, you grew a mustache below. Anyway, when you try to do those crimes or FinCEN crimes.
Oh, FinCEN's.
I hated those with a hate that radiated. I did not want to see anything of those because they required such minutia, such time, such examination, such incredible amounts of paperwork. And Sean, take it.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's so hard to prove that the person who actually was committing the fraud, quote unquote, knew it. There's a difference, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And to be able to prove it's entirely different. And look, I didn't work a ton of fraud cases back in the day. I assisted with a few, and I didn't want any part of it. And then when I was dealing with FinCEN a lot, when I was working for casinos, you saw the complexity of it. And I worked a lot with DOJ guys there too that were doing these investigations, and Treasury guys. And they said, you have no idea how hard it is to actually prove this case. I could spend 40 hours on this.
They're not.
And then turn around and say, yeah, I know he did it. Everybody knows he did it, but I have no idea how he bought the Ferrari cash. It's just insane.
Well, the thing of it is that one lead will lead to another, which leads to another, which leads to another split, which leads to a split in three people, which leads to another split in and of itself. It's like why I never went into burglary in any department because I didn't want to have anything to do with property and lifting all that crap and detailing all that crap, because you take a 15-year-old kid, put him in the back of your car and take him around for the obligatory trip in the neighborhood. And then that's when the kid says, okay, I burglarized that house and 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 that one right there. You fuck.
Oh, and by the way, I have a pocket full of stolen checks.
Jesus.
And well, now you wouldn't have that, but back in the day, I have a pocket full of stolen checks, and I'm actually a runaway from Canada. Have a nice day, and you're there for the next 28 hours dealing with it.
And then, and anyway, moving right along. I hate financial crimes.
Oh my God!
Just
Not
keep
you.
going. Just keep going.
Yeah. Oh, everybody's a big guy on the internet. I always love that.
Just keep going.
Yeah, we're moving along. So I threw that out there. I think there are some potential avenues that could yet be utilized. And, you know, like Trump says any number of times, and I have to say I admire him for this. And how many times does he excoriate the American media maggots, and they still don't get it? President Trump, what are you going to do with blah, 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 blah? Why should I tell you? I'm not going to tell you what the machinations are that are going on behind the scenes. Oh, but no, because the exact same reason that no one was notified with regard to Maduro. I see you laughing down there, Joe. With regard to Maduro, it is everyone knows that there would be probably a minimum of 10 Congress critters who would spill and make phone calls, just like Millie to China, only equally execrable on that level.
All right.
You were laughing. Come on, out with it, mister.
No, just chat some things that are going on. It's just funny, the chest banging by people on the internet that think they're tougher than they are. All right. I'm going to hit off on one last topic. We only got a couple minutes for this.
True.
All right. We've had Democrat Congressman Jimmy Gomez. We've had Democrat Congressman Maxwell Frost expose ICE activity prior to it happening. Which has endangered ICE, put them in danger by exposing these operations. Right now, in Florida, they're talking about how to remove Maxwell Frost because of that. Should they?
Yeah. Yeah, look,
two different questions.
Oh, go ahead, BZ.
Well, I don't know if you're talking about this, but maybe you're talking about the whistleblower that leaked, what was it, like 45 separate instances of ICE and ICE administrative people, that information out to the internet. Why are you wearing masks, ICE? Hello, fucking duh. So I don't know if you're making reference to that in particular or something else.
I'm dead.
That's fine, BZ. Just throw it down a totally different alley.
I know with Maxwell Frost, he exposed that there's been massive ICE reservations at a hotel in Orlando and gave date and times, which exposed the operation that was going to go on.
Well, it's the same thing. It's doxing. It's taking the information that they shouldn't have access to and throwing it out there.
Well, I got an argument with Chat GPT over there, and it's not doxing because they didn't give the names and this and that and that. I even said expose, and no, that's not the legal term for it. So
there is no legal term as doxing.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Social media conscript.
Yeah, and it's
construct
to me how first and foremost they always call themselves peaceful, and then they turn around and they try to use doxing, hoping that some SWAT guy shoots some poor person in their living room, and then they expose them. Look, I mean, we saw them go after political figures before. You had what was it, Roberts, who his house was burglarized, Supreme Court justice, right? So this is part of the intimidation. When you brought up earlier the RICO charge, Is this something that you can prove in that circle? Is this part of an overall program? Is this part of a bigger conspiracy? And if I'll tell you right now, if I am an ICE agent in Orlando and I go to I'm walking to my car and 100 people show up and I get hurt, I'm suing Max Frost personally. We already saw legitimately, what happens. They broke into a federal agent's vehicle and used another vehicle to pull the firearm safe out of it. And then they got their hands on an M4 and a couple other items. So they want this antagonization, and at some point you just have to give them what they want. You know, they want to go to jail. They want to be martyrs. They want to start being perp walked. Go for it.
Yeah, I agree.
The same could be said about New York City. We're watching that experiment in progress right now.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
All right, we're getting that time. I want to give you guys a chance to give a little bit about yourself.
Age before beauty. Go ahead, BC.
Oh, thank you ever so kindly for that. I am ever grateful for that. I'm BZ from BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct on right here on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. I am your conservative Sherpa, and I guide you through the horrendous maelstrom of leftist bullshit like we watch each and every hour. Thank you for having me here tonight, Jersey Joe.
No problem. Anytime, sir. And the boss, second Sean.
First of all, I write shrmedia.com and the Loftus Party. So you can find me over there. Host Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, right here on the SHI Media Network, and on the number 2 Against Tyranny on X.
All right. That's going to be pretty much it for tonight. And I want to thank you guys. Sean, have a great night. BZ, peace. All right. What we walk through tonight is not random. It's coordinated. It is repeated, and it is intentional. Different issues, different headlines, same underlying pattern. When law enforcement is demonized, enforcement is framed as tyranny. When order is enforced, it is labeled oppression. When chaos follows, it is excused as activism. We see it when Democrats threaten government shutdowns, pre-write the blame. We see it when protests spill into violence, accountability vanishes. We see it when legal scrutiny itself is treated as an attack. Political leaders inflame pressure, then feign shock when consequences follow. The media runs cover, sanitizes language, protects ideology, and refuses to connect cause and effect. And the people who pay the price are never the architects. It is the citizens left exposed. The officers forced into impossible decisions and the institution hollowed out from within. Here's the truth they will not say out loud. They do not fear crime. They do not fear chaos. They do not fear consequences as long as they never have to own them. What they fear is accountability, because accountability ends the con. Accountability exposes the rhetoric. Accountability forces answers instead of slogans. And accountability dismantles political machines built on outrage without responsibility. This is why the show exists. Not to play nice, not to normalize dysfunction, not to pretend this is business as usual, but to call it exactly what it is. So hit like, smash subscribe, share this stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. This has been the Reaver of Common Sense, where truth lives and the spin dies screaming and the nonsense burns the ashes. If you want more from SHR Media, we got BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Show on Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Mission Ready Men with Big E Jackson, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, you have me, Reaver of Common Sense, every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good night, Patriots. Stay loud, stay sharp, and never let them scare you into silence. And thank you for everybody that was in the chat room. Have a great weekend.